A few days ago in Colorado, a grateful community honored a hero, Rich Fierro, a retired military officer who jumped into action at Club Q as a gunman walked in, dressed in military garb, armed with an assault rifle and a handgun, hunting humans essentially. And Rich joins me now. Rich, how you doing?
We're doing well.
You know, at the time, shortly after this happened, you said something to the effect of that you didn't know exactly what you did. You just went into combat mode. Now that we've been past this tragedy uh, a number of days, have you looked back and figured out what exactly you did do in this act of heroism?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it wasn't necessarily to me an act of heroism. I think everybody in that room was doing the same thing, trying to survive. I told quite a few folks that for me it was about protecting my family, right? I saw the individual, and I went after it because that was a threat. Come to find out, my wife was in the patio, and the other gentleman, Thomas James, he had engaged as well. So both of us went after this guy, and he's a sailor, so it's one of those things where you look at our training. It's not to run and cower from things like this. It's to just act regardless of what could happen to yourself.
Tell me what happened and how did you first realize this guy was out to kill as many people as he could in Club Q?
Well, I mean, somebody walking in with an AR and just laying rounds out. Yeah, I knew from the first two rounds that this was a threat. You could smell the cordite. Once you smell that, you know it's real. I think it's a foreign smell to a lot of folks, so they didn't understand that meant this is real. It's not the music. It's not a game. This is happening. So for me, that was the trigger that got me down. I jumped back up and fell backwards into a booth and then ran across the room as I spotted him on the other side, facing the patio. Now, what was going on with Thomas, whether or not he had helped me at the same time or he was right there before me, but either way, we managed to get to this guy at the same time and we brought him down. Once we got him down, he was on his face. Thomas was towards his head with his feet near the guy's head. Thomas or we were yelling, "Hey, Thomas, I didn't know his name. I said, "Hey, get the AR," and he was just moving the AR. Wrestled for I went for the pistol. Once I got it away from him, I used it to start beating him. I mean, that's just as plain and simple as it goes. And Thomas then proceeded to kick him in the head, and I said, "Just keep kicking, man, until we go." I don't know his injuries. He had plenty of injuries. I haven't talked to him. He's still injured, as far as I know. And so that's kind of where we're at. I'm still waiting on his side of this thing because I just don't know what it is. But he was kicking and kicking, and then he slowed down at one point. There was a trans woman running by, and I asked for her to kick and kick and kick to kick this guy, and she jumped in and kicked about 4 or 5 times. All I remember was the glitter heels going down on this guy's head, and then they ran off, and Thomas picked back up kicking until the police entered.
The gunman, Anderson Lee Aldrich, did you ever get a chance to look into his eyes?
No, I was beating the back of his head the whole time. His face was in the ground, and when I approached him, it was from the back.
What was the vibe in the club before this happened?
It was awesome. I was having a great time. I had my wife and kid. She's 22, and her boyfriend who passed in this event of 6+ years. My best friends there, husband and wife, they were there. We were all there to support one of the performers. The drag performers was a kid that grew up with my daughter since second grade, and it was his birthday. You can't not support that. And when I showed up, it was probably the best time. That's what we're taking a lot of solace in when we lost Raymond, is that we were having a great time, probably one of the best times in a long time, and that's the last moments we had with him.
As you mentioned, your daughter's boyfriend of 6 years, Raymond, sadly died after being shot to death in this incident. How was it getting through Thanksgiving, and how will it be getting through Christmas without
It's
your
just
daughter's
getting
boyfriend?
Yeah, it's just getting through. She is being relatively strong, and I'm very proud of how she's responded. She has a broke knee from this incident, so she's still laid up in a wheelchair. My wife has a couple broken ribs, so I mean we're dealing with stuff at the same time, trying to grieve. We're going through that process now, and it's hard, but we like to, as a family, we as in our culture, we celebrate Dia de los Muertos, so we kind of celebrate death, not necessarily in a bad way. So we talk about a lot of the stories and good times, and that's what meant a lot to us. Is that last day was a very good time.
You did multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, Rich.
Yeah.
Did you carry any after effects, any PTSD, any long-term issues coming back from that? And did this incident bring any of that to the surface for you?
So yes, and but at the end of the day, I've started deploying in '03 all the way to 2012, and then since then, after I got out in 13, or it was late 13, so it was really 2014. After I got out, I about a year later, I started looking for help because I was angry for unknown reasons, just angry. So I've been, I've gotten on meds, I've talked to different kinds of meds, I've had one-on-ones with psychologists, all that kind of stuff. And I think it's important because you got to acknowledge your mental health, and that's kind of calmed me. But when I needed it, I was able to reach back for that fight, flight, and go into fight.
Did you think at all, or was it an immediate instinctual reaction when you saw this guy walk in and start shooting?
It's instinctual. I mean, I did not. If you asked me what was going through my head, get him. That was it. There was no, what happens to me? What happens? It was just go get him, because at the end of the day, my whole family was in there, and if I didn't do anything, then I'm gonna have to live with that. And I know for as a man, for me, that's not something I'm gonna do.
Why does somebody do this, Rich? Have you spent
I
time
don't
thinking
know.
about that? I
Listen,
have. Everybody has. It's a who
everybody
goes
has, yeah.
into a peaceful environment and starts shooting people up? Where does that hatred, that violence come from?
It's ugly, and I've been saying that people just need to be nice to each other. I got to the Springs in 2007, and I was still in the Army, and everybody would say hello, and you'd walk by someone, strangers, and just say hello, or how's your day going, whatever. And that's kind of gone away. And folks need to start going back to engaging each other, people that they don't know, people that don't look like them, don't act like them, whatever. And even if they do, just engage. Everybody's got their head in their phone, and I think that just breeds isolation, and it gets you into different things. And this guy's just evil. I don't even want to talk about him because to me he's disgusting. He's ruined my family for life. I mean, we got to live with this forever, regardless of what this stuff does now. My daughter and wife went through combat now with me. I've got my best friends that went through combat with me. We lost one of our family members, and there's other people in that place that went through the same thing. And for what? Just going out to have a good time.
Will you ever get past this?
You never do. And I've had incidents like this before. So you never get past it. What you do is move forward, and you just keep going. And as you approach those moments of pain and those moments of hatred or anger, you've got to harness it and turn it into something good. And I've said it before. Like, find your heroes at your dinner table. Stop looking for something that's not there. Look at what's in front of you and take advantage of that. You got family. If whatever that family looks like, take advantage of it.
How do you put this into perspective for your daughter? I mean, I can only imagine what it was like to go from I'm with my entire family, my boyfriend of 6 years, my dad's with us, my mom's with us, the vibe is great, and all of a sudden this happens and she's left without her significant other. As a parent, how do you put that into perspective? How do you get her through this?
I reached back to the help I sought out through the VA. I mean, we were driving home from the hospital, and I looked at both her and my wife, and I said, you guys have now gone through combat with me. Everything you thought Dad was weird about, you're going to have the same issues, and we've got to work together with it. We've got to talk. We've got to hold each other up, and we're going to be there for each other. We are more than bonded as a family now. We're now battle buddies, and that's that thing that I think veterans have that trumps everything else. There's that sense of we did something that's the human body and the human mind is not supposed to do, but you have to do it to get the mission complete.
I suppose that attitude, that eternal optimism, will only make your family closer and bond more as the years go by.
I hope so. And again, it also tears families apart. And you'll I've seen it. There's plenty of people in that shooting and all the other shootings that are going around that you're going to have to live with that forever. And people handle things differently. It really is about the support within your social construct that helps you get through it. And if you don't have that, you've got to reach out and find someone to help you.
Does it ever strike you that one human being's actions can do so much to tear apart the fabric of a community?
So no, it doesn't. It doesn't strike me in any way. It's. I've seen it before. I've seen it. I've seen it in Afghanistan and Iraq. It's a very common thing. But the real question is, what's the change of the community afterwards? I mean, I'll be honest. I don't know where these other shootings have occurred, and what that feels like the next day or a year from then, a couple weeks down the road. All that is new to us right here in Colorado Springs. And right now, this community has come together, regardless of opinions. Everybody's doing the right thing, and I'm very proud of what we're doing here in the Springs. Our mayor's doing a wonderful job, and taking care of everybody. They put up so many resources. We don't even know what to do. It's just been so good.
This week, a local credit union awarded you for your heroic actions with a check,
Yeah,
a check you didn't expect to get.
no.
How did you react to that?
It's odd for me. I've never had that kind of money. I've never earned, that lump sum of money. I've always, I'm a soldier. I earn it slowly. And I save. I do whatever every other person does in America. Um, the reason I think that happened, Joanne is a manager at Ent, the bank, and she was the one I was rendering first aid to after the shooting. I went over to her and tried to keep her alive with another officer. I think his name was Logan. But I mean, she was shot. She had 5 bullet wounds in her, and I didn't think she was going to make it. And her husband was next to her, and he was shot in the leg, and he was reaching out for her. They were just too far apart, and she couldn't move her arm. So I put her hand in his hand, and because I didn't know that they were going to make it. So you kind of I saw their love and their marriage right there at its worst point, and they were still trying to help each other. And that's what I think Ant felt like they had to do something to kind of, it's one of theirs, and that's how the Colorado community is. It's very, if something happens to one of us, all of us are affected.
This wasn't a situation where you just subdued the gunman. You then went into the crowd of badly injured people, put tourniquets on folks. You got tourniquets from police officers on the scene who weren't necessarily trained in the high pressure tactics of saving lives.
So and some of that, it kind of, I think that's a little bit off. So I was keeping Joanne in, eye to eye, look at me, stay with me. And I was telling Chip to kind of, talk to her. We're trying to keep her there. Once you take your eyes off someone, you're going to lose them. And I've seen that before. So I kept her eyes on me. I didn't want her to see her wounds. She was in shock. That was a given. But the officer that came in next to me was Logan. He had a tourniquet, and then I started, hey, put him on her arm. She got 2 on her leg. Continue, and then I put another one on her arm, and he started putting one on Chip. And then I was yelling at the other officers with urgency. So some of these cops had never seen anything like this. So they walk in and they're kind of staring and wandering around because it's not human to see that kind of carnage. And that moment, I'm yelling urgency. Let's go. We got casualties. And I understand they still thought there was a threat in there. So when in the midst of taking care of Joanne, they took me down and arrested me, detained me is what they said, for about an hour in the vehicle. I understand it. I mean, I've been in those positions. Everything is a threat in there if it's not laying there in a wounded fashion. So that was part of that whole scenario. But yeah, it was more than just that. It was a long-term thing, and there was plenty of heroes in there giving out tourniquets themselves and doing the same thing. So it was a lot of folks in there just caring about each other, and that's the kind of thing I think we need to get back to.
You were covered in blood. You had the assailant's gun in your hand. You had beaten him with it. Thankfully, you had the courage and the presence of mind to do that. And you were actually put in a police car and handcuffed for an hour because they were trying to sort out what the hell had happened.
Correct. Yes.
I can't imagine being trapped in the back of a squad car, not seeing your wife and your kids, and handcuffed, and you're the hero of this thing. And I mean, I understand it intellectually now, but at the time, I'd be going out of my mind.
Well, I did. I did, and I'm surprised they didn't arrest me just for the kind of things and the activity I was doing and saying.
What did you
Um,
say to them at the
I said
time?
a lot of things, man, and I'll be honest. There's a few officers that probably would never want to talk to me again. I understand that. I was still full of adrenaline. No idea where my wife and kid were. Never saw Raymond. I only knew that Chip and Joanne looked like they may not make it. And for me, it was very, I don't know. There's not even a word to describe it. To be in a position where you have no way to find out, and you were just sitting there, not being able to continue doing what you were doing prior to that. It was very frustrating, and so, but I don't blame them for it. It was part of the routine. That's what you have to do. I probably would have done the same thing myself if I saw a guy down there. And I know I was given first aid, but they didn't see it that way. They saw it as a guy that's moving around. That wasn't one of them, and I understood that.
But if I'm you in the back seat, I would have wanted to kick a window out.
Well, I was not what you call calm, and so there's a few officers that had some words with me. I had some words with them, and we were getting through it. But they finally figured it out, and they got my daughter to me, and they took care of me from there. They got my daughter and wife to me, and they took me down to the station to do some interviews, and they took my wife and kid to the hospital before they dropped me, or they took me to the station.
Let me ask you this, Rich. How long between the shooting and when you, your daughter, and your wife slept in the same house together again?
It was the next day, Sunday night. Well, I don't know if we even slept that night, but we were home Sunday evening or Sunday afternoon. That's when we finally all got home.
What sense of relief did that provide you to have everybody back in the same house?
That was huge. It's huge for me, and that was the one part I broke down, because it's that moment of, okay, now they're done. We're here, and we didn't know what to do, and I didn't know how to look at my daughter. And then I still had to tell her that her boyfriend had passed. We found that out later. And so we ended up starting over again, as she got a call from his mother, that was telling us that he did not make it. Um, it's ugly. It's not something I would wish on anyone in this world. Um, I still, I don't know whether I'm dealing with it right or incorrectly. I have no idea. And like I told the press out the front of the house, I don't have a guy that comes and tells me what to say or how to say it. I'm just kind of speaking from the heart. That's all I've got.
Well, thank you for doing that with us. What lesson does this lend us in terms of preventing something like this from happening again? And that's a heavy question
Well,
to lay on you after everything you've been through. But
yeah.
uh, but I'm curious to know, in your mind, you must have given this some thought. How do we prevent this from happening again? I remember being out in Aurora 10 years
I was here
ago
too. Yeah.
covering that shooting when that madman
hmm
walked into the theater.
hmm
That tore
Um,
apart that community.
it does, but it also brings them together at the end. And again, it's not something you want, but it is something that you have to deal with. I don't know what the answer is. I really don't want to form an opinion either way. I have my own opinions. I'll share with my wife and my daughter, but outside of that, I believe that this nation needs to come to terms with what it wants to do, and that's whatever that is what it needs to be. I'm not pro this or anti that. I just want people to be able to have a say, and then we execute. It's all about getting it done, and folks, and I keep saying it, folks just need to be nicer to each other. I think that will solve a whole lot, because if this kid would have maybe had somebody that shook his hand at one point, maybe he wouldn't think this way or whatever. I just don't know. There's no answer to this. It's just one of those things that we as a society have to go and uh, render immobile before it becomes something. And you can't do that by laws and everything else. You've got to do that with one-on-one, love and the things that everybody talks about but never does. Friendship, stuff like that.
Human connection.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rich, is there anything else you want people to know about what happened that night and what has happened since then?
No, I mean, people are forming their opinions. I'm getting you get the good, the bad with it, and honestly, I don't care. I'm pretty immune to that kind of stuff. But my biggest thing for people is to reach out, and I said it the day before Thanksgiving. I said, hey, find the heroes around your dinner table. It is the only way that we're gonna get through all this stuff. Nobody, up in the White House or in their state legislature, all that. None of those people care about that individual and that family. you've got to care about those around you and those your neighbors, your people in your community. That's where we fix things. You can't fix things from the top.
Rich, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your brave acts. God bless, and I hope you get through the holidays in a decent and comfortable way.
All right, and here's my question: Are you the guy that was doing the catch a predator thing?
Oh yeah, we do
That's awesome.
them. Yeah, we do them now too. We have a
Really?
whole new series called Takedown with Chris Hansen. They're up now. Yeah.
I was just talking. I just recognized the name, and I remember the one episode you did with the soldier coming out of Bragg, and it was one of
Oh,
those moments for me. I was
it's heartbreaking.
so bad.
Heartbreaking.
But
And it
no,
was-
I appreciate the time.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
sorry, I
no,
didn't want-
and yeah, no, but we still do those and a lot of others. But yeah, that one episode, people always ask me, do you ever feel sorry for those guys? And what he was going to do was unforgivable. What he
Right.
had been through without the proper treatment, whether that led to it or not, I don't know. But the system let him down leading up to that. There's no question. And
And that's kind of what we were talking about right now, right? I mean, at the end of
Right.
the day, it's always
Yeah.
something that nobody's reaching out for somebody. So yeah.
Well, it's this
All right.
encapsulated behavior that some people have where they let this foment and grow and stew, and
Yeah.
then they're going to go out and do something like this. I mean, I remember being in Aurora and having an FBI source leak me the video from inside the shooter's apartment. He had booby trapped it with homemade bombs,
Ugh.
and it was all wired together with different, volatile liquids and everything. And just this guy was just, as a prosecutor told me years ago, this guy is guilty as homemade sin. I mean, just evil.
Yeah.
And again, there you are at a club. It's not a biker club where somebody
No.
could have a beef and something might happen. This guy went in there and targeted and hunted human beings,
Right.
and that's you can't predict that.
No,
But you
and it's
need to,
evil.
and you know this, and you know it from your military training, and I know it from covering these stories. I mean, this thing could have been as tragic as it was, 5 people dead and many people injured, and we've interviewed some of them. I mean, had you not done that
Well,
everybody in there
was.
could have been dead, Rich.
I mean, the gravity of it's still hard for me to kind of wrap my hands around because I lost someone, and so it still feels grave no matter what I do, right? But that said, I just spoke with the owner of Club Q, and yesterday, and he's heartbroken. He's got employees for 14 years that have been there, and just this whole thing is a nightmare. But the guy's just trying to make it through COVID, and so was
Right.
I. And I got my own business, and we're all just trying to get out of this and get folks to come back out again. And then you have stuff like this, and nobody wants to go out again. And now we're back to okay, we can't fill anything. We can't. These clubs and restaurants and everything start going away again.
Mm.
That's what to me, and my daughter said it pretty cool. It was like 9/11 when you say don't let them beat you. You got to be able to go back out.
Well,
And
that's
you
an
got
interesting point. I mean,
you
you owning a brewery, and the owner of Club Q, just emerging from this COVID pandemic nightmare, and now there's another horrible tragedy that is keeping people from going out again.
Yeah, it's changing people's behavior, and again, that's what we all told ourselves we're not going to do with 9/11. Kind of why I went where I went, and now we're back to that, and it's at home. So that's where I'm saying we've got to really kind of change our attitudes, I think.
Have you had a moment, Rich, where you've finally had a chance to break down and release all this?
Yeah, many of them, and I'm not a guy that. And this is what's funny because I don't go out on. I finally saw the interview I did with I think it was CNN or whatever, and I was kind of choking up and everything. I'm not that kind of guy, but this was with my family, and so it's just too personal. And so yeah, many times, and the VA's reached out to me. I just saw my doc the other day. They tested me for everything. I was breathing this dude's blood. I mean, I don't know what the hell this guy's got. So there's a whole ton of stuff that we went through, and I'm still going to go through, and I'm reaching out. I have no issues with that. I'm not too proud to ask for help. So
Good.
Yeah.
Rich, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your brave acts. God bless, and I hope you get through the holidays in a decent and comfortable way.
I appreciate it, sir. Thank you much.
Okay, Rich, stay in touch. Thank you.
Will do. Thanks.